Yes, baseball is still going on.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from the YouTubes and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you are posting on all those social media sites that make our lives just so much better, make sure to put that hashtag Everyday Sully. It helps us figure out who the heck is listening to us every single day. And believe it or not, it does matter. Hey, let's get to the trivia question. The question was, I asked, what American leaguer had the most career home runs while playing for the same team their entire career? Scott Horsemeyer got it right. The answer is Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle with 536 home runs, all with the Yankees. That's the most by any American leaguer. The most by any National Leaguer is Michael Jack Schmidt with 548. He's 16th all time. So 1 through 15 have all played for at least more than one franchise. And let's go backwards from 15. I bet you Manny Ramirez played for a few. Reggie Jackson, Rafael Palmeiro, Harmon Killebrew, Mark McGuire, Frank Robinson, Sammy Sosa, Jim Thome, Ken Griffey Jr., Willie Mays, Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols, Babe Ruth, Henry Aaron, and Barry Lamar Bonds. So there you go. Good job there. The reason I had the opening the way I did, and we're going to cover stuff that happened this weekend, wild fun weekend we had, and check out Locked On A's, where I talked, the other show I host, we talked about that wild marathon game that happened on Friday and an interesting weekend between the A's and Tigers there. This is one of my saddest parts of the year because baseball gets really fun now. There's intensity. Teams are trying to, jockeying and throwing elbows for the playoff positions, and the NFL takes over. Now, I don't follow football, and I don't look down upon people who do. It's not like, hey, you like football, you're dumb. Like, no, it's not my thing. Everyone has their thing. Baseball, you may have caught on. Baseball's my thing. It's my sport. It's the thing I like to follow. For some people, it's football. And I understand that most people are going to be super into football. It's on once a week. It's like a celebration. It's fun. I don't like the fact that it's on only once a week. I like sports that are on all week. But there you go. I get it. I get the intensity of it. I just think it really breaks my heart that my favorite parts of the baseball year are September and October. And this is the part of the year where most people turn away. And so, but I know if you're listening to my voice right now, if your instinct for sports fandom at this point of the year is still going to a Major League Baseball podcast, then this is a respite for you. And so I'm sure a bunch of you do both. A lot of people do both. I don't, but it's just because, it's not my thing. But if you're like, God, I just want to talk baseball. I just want to hear baseball. We're here for you. We're absolutely here for you. And if you're here after listening to Locked On NFL, welcome aboard. You're going to have some fun. By the way, having fun right now are the New York Metropolitans, who are on a massive winning streak. And I'm recording this on it's early Sunday afternoon. A couple of the games on Sunday have already ended, including the Orioles losing to the Tampa Bay Rays in a tight ball game. And the Orioles have fallen to second place because the Yankees have played the Cubs quite well. That game isn't over right now. Cubs and Yankees are still playing right now. But the Mets who are current, as I'm recording this, are currently tied with Cincinnati, are on a 9-game winning streak and push the Atlanta Braves off of the playoff run. They are not a playoff team as I record this. And boy, oh boy, if this is the way it's going to be, or I guess I should say OMG based on that song, then we are going to have a fabulous last couple of weeks with the Mets and the Braves basically playing for their playoff lives. And again, I am going to have to eat piles and piles and piles of crow for encouraging the Mets to sell at the trade deadline. I didn't see they had a phenomenal June. They had a solid July. I didn't see them having one more run like this in them. I didn't. So sue me. I'm going to eat crow. Lots of it. All you can eat crow buffet. But I'll tell you another thing happened that happened on Saturday. And there's sometimes I just don't get the planet Earth. I don't get it. On Saturday, the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Washington Nationals were playing a doubleheader. And in game one of the doubleheader, the Nationals took a 2-0 lead. Actually, they wound up taking a 4-0 lead. And DJ Hertz was pitching for Washington. Now, through 5 innings, DJ Hertz had thrown how many pitches had he thrown? Through 5 innings, he threw 87 pitches. It's a lot of pitches. He also walked 3 batters and he struck out 5. That sort of thing will jack up your pitch count. I grant you that. However, he had allowed 0 runs. And if you're throwing a doubleheader, you would think, you might think, to quote the Cars, that you would try to have that starting pitcher go as long as you can because you got a doubleheader going and you don't want to go burn through your pitching staff in game 1. Here's the other thing. No hits. He had no hits. He was throwing a no-hitter at the time. Was it a clean no-hitter? Of course not. He had thrown a bunch of walks. He had thrown a lot of pitches. Although 3 walks isn't like he was lost total control. But okay, fine. 3 walks and all the strikeouts. It got his pitch total. He was going to get into the 90s, even if he threw a 3-pitch inning. He was going to be in the 90s. I grant you. But folks, first of all, it's September. How long do we have to wait to strengthen the pitcher's arms? November? Over Thanksgiving? Also, the Washington Nationals are not contenders. They're not fringe contenders. They're nowhere near contending right now. Even after they won that game, they were 15. That raised them up to 15 games under 500. And it was the first game of a doubleheader. So maybe, just maybe, if DJ Hertz was throwing the game of his life and potentially writing himself into the Nationals history book as throwing a no-hitter, maybe you do that so you have some of your other pitchers, I don't know, rested and ready for game 2. And as it turned out, the bullpen came in and allowed 5 hits and 3 runs in 4 innings. They made it a save situation. In fact, the score was 4-2 going into the 9th. It was 5-3 going to the bottom of the 9th. So I need someone to explain to me. If he was hurt, okay. If he was being monitored because he just was about to have his arm amputated, all right, give me something. Give me something to lean on because you have a doubleheader, a guy throwing a no-hitter. I'd take him out. If he came out in the 6th inning and the first batter got a base hit off of him and you removed him right there, I wouldn't have blinked. The guy's throwing the potential game of his life and a potential masterpiece. And you're going to pull him in game 1 of a doubleheader. I need someone to explain that to me. Now put it in the comments and put that hashtag Everyday Sully when you explain to me why DJ Hertz was lifted while throwing a freaking no-hitter. All right. And by the way, another brilliant piece of man. I'm gonna give Aaron Boone some credit. We all like to give Aaron Boone a forearm shiver, even though the Yankees are in first place with just a couple of weeks left to go in the regular season. But the Yankees have had a ton of bullpen issues. They've had a ton of situations where Clay Holmes can't do the job anymore. They used Weaver out of the bullpen for his first career save, but the other day they did something novel. Clark Schmidt was coming off the disabled list, or is it the injured list? I'm sorry. He was coming off the injured list, and he pitched into the fifth, and I got why they removed him. First of all, he wasn't there on a no-hitter, but also he was coming off the injured list, and he got into a bit of a pickle, and they got him out. And Nestor Cortes Jr., not the old man, but Nestor Cortes Jr. came out and finished the fifth and the sixth and the seventh. And he was throwing with great economy of pitches. He was absolutely stymieing the Cubs. And he got the Yankees through the eighth. And it was a 2-0 game, but Nestor Cortes was dealing. And so they did something. And other teams make note. And also make note, whenever I've given a forearm shiver in the face to Aaron Boone, I'm giving him credit for this. They let Nestor Cortes pitch the ninth, and he finished the game. He finished the final 4 1/3 innings. Do you know why? He was pitching well. There was no need to relieve him. This is a philosophical point of view that there you showed it working. You relieve a pitcher when they need relief. Nestor Cortes didn't need relief. And therefore, who's going to pitch the ninth? I don't know. The guy dominating? Kind of like DJ Hurst was. It's a noble experiment that is worth a look. But I'll tell you what's also going to be worth a look. All the games on Sunday. When we come back, we're going to talk about them. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different from you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. This is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, and on Amazon TV on the Free Fire TV channel app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, there's a lot to unpack of what happened on Sunday, but first and foremost, let's give a lot of credit to the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha and company finished off the 3-game sweep of the Minnesota Twins. Now, remember where the Royals were coming into this. When they took 3 games away from Cleveland at the end of August, they pulled within a tie. Then they lost a week of games. They lost 7 straight games, including being swept by Houston and dropping the first 2 of the series against Cleveland. They won the finale, but I talked about how Minnesota could be the team that could take advantage of a slumping Royals club, and they got the rug pulled out from under them. Now, the Twins had a 2-0 lead the other day, and the Royals came storming back. And today, Michael Wacha and company, and Ursak, who they picked up from Oakland at the trade deadline, is filling in quite nicely as their makeshift closer. Suddenly, the Royals are hot again. They went from losing a 7 straight games to now a 4-game winning streak. Now, keep in mind, Cleveland had a series against Los Angeles, who have their own issues. The fact that they had to play a game where no one pitched more than 2 innings, that's a problem. But Jack Flaherty pitched great for Los Angeles tonight. And Shohei Ohtani hit a ball that went into the stratosphere. And Cleveland wound up dropping the last 2 games to Los Angeles. And with the 4-game winning streak by Kansas City, all of a sudden the Royals are back to within 2.5 games of the division. Now, there are a few things that are working against the Royals' favor. 2.5 games is a lot to make up in fewer than 20 games when none of them are head-to-head. And those 3 head-to-head losses recently to Cleveland are looming very large. And that sweep at the hands of the Astros, losing 7 games at this point. If they went 2-5, this would be a much different scenario than them going 0-7 in that stretch. But starting on Monday, the Royals are playing the Yankees, and that is a really interesting series. Now, chances are both teams are going to be making the playoffs. So it's not like this is a do or die series. But the Royals are, well, they have an image of winning the division still dancing in their head. So do the Yankees. It would behoove both of them to try to win that division. Now, the New York Yankees, they played very well against the Cubs. And of course, Kansas City played great against Minnesota. So these are 2 teams that are coming off of a positive weekend. The Yankees lost today with Garrett Cole, but they played so well the entire series that you can't take anything against them. On Monday, these 2 teams will be facing off in the Bronx. And both of them have had some rough patches recently, and both of them have righted the ship recently. One of these 2 teams are going to walk away losing this series and will have their fans be kind of a little anxious about how things are going to go. I think this is a really interesting series because it's tough to get a handle on what's happening with either team. It just is. And so we're going to see what happened. I had my eye on that Royals Twins series all weekend, and boy, it did not disappoint at all. I mentioned Los Angeles winning that game against Cleveland. While they still have a ton of issues with their pitching, I can't help but think that they've kind of righted the ship. They have won 7 of their last 10 games, and as of this recording, they have the best record in baseball. So that's got to amount to something. And Arizona, who lost 7 of their last 10 before their win on Sunday Night Baseball, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But San Diego lost a couple of tough games to the San Francisco Giants. So there's a little bit of, I don't want to say relaxation that's happening in LA, but there is a sense of, okay, they are going to win the division. Barring an absolute calamity, they are going to win the division. So spend the next 3 weeks, spend the next 18 games figuring out the Rubik's Cube of who's going to pitch 3 games, who is going to start for 3 of those games. Now, Flaherty, it's so funny. When we talk about who the big pickups are in the trade deadline, I always say it's impossible to discuss that, the winners and losers of the trade deadline, until the dust has settled. As of this recording, Stone, Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Kershaw are still on the disabled list or the injured list. And for that matter, so is Ohtani as a pitcher. And so they have to figure this out. They have to figure out, what is Walker Buehler and Miller going to do? Are they going to be completely worthless in the postseason? Is Yamamoto going to come back, and is he going to pitch well enough? Flaherty has turned into one of the best pickups. I don't recall anyone at the trade deadline saying, holy cow, the Dodgers picked up Flaherty and Kopech. They just won the trade deadline. But they may have. So it's got like the National League Championship could be decided on the arms of Landon Knack, Jack Flaherty. Are they going to start Ryan Brazier? Are they going to start Michael Grove? What are they going to get out of Buehler and Miller? They're going to get in. And they're with their revamped bullpen, you see that Kopech has pitched well. You see that Hudson and Banda and Triton and Vesia can all do all right with when handed the ball properly. And obviously, any lineup that has Ohtani and Freeman and Betts are going to do well. They have to wait to see what's happening with Teoscar Hernandez. Boy, Jason Hayward would look really, really good in a Dodger uniform right now. But here we go. This is what all of the money, people say, it's not fair. It's not fair. They have too much talent. And yet here we are with less than 3 weeks to go. And we're literally saying, who are the physical bodies who will be standing on the mound throwing a ball 60 feet, 6 inches? When they were acquiring all these players and people say it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair, did anybody think that the National League pennant will be resting on the arms of Jack Flaherty and Landon Knack? But here we are. By the way, the Red Sox just let go of Rich Hill. Maybe they should bring him back. What the hell were they doing getting rid of James Paxton? You're not going to, you don't know. I had all the good folks at Locked On Dodgers were, giving me a forearm shiver when I said that Tyler Glasnow should be in a full body cast when the Dodgers acquired him. They said, oh, you said that, and now he's been great. He's been great. Yeah, fabulous. He's on the injured list, as predicted. So this is your job, Dodgers. You did what you had to do. You got to the point where we're approaching, in what, day after tomorrow will officially be in mid-September. They're going to win the division. Now, completely do the proverbial Rubik's Cube and figure this out. Otherwise, this could be another division series and out. Because you can't afford to have a game like you had the other day where, okay, this pitcher's going to throw 1, this pitcher's going to go 2. Who knows? Maybe they will. But Landon Knack and Flaherty are 2 of the great keys to win the National League pennant. And Flaherty looks like he's up for the challenge. Who else will be? Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On A's, also hosted by me, your pal Sully. But Sully, I'm not an A's fan. Why would I listen? Trust me, we're going to have a lot of fun these last couple of weeks as the A's wrap up all these years in Oakland are coming to a close in just a couple of weeks. And we're going to have an emotional, fun, and sometimes angry and sometimes silly few weeks celebrating all things A's. Check out, we're going to have Brian from the Last Dive Bar coming on the show, and I'll be doing on-location episode at the Oakland Coliseum for the final game there. Check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the Astros, who I think very well should be considered the favorites to win the American League pennant again. Spencer Arrighetti, Ronel Blanco, Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, and Yusei Kikuchi. That's the best starting 5 currently pitching in the American League. Some combination of Hader, Abreu, Caleb Ort, Hector Neris, Ryan Presley, some combination of them will be the bullpen. And you also see that they brought in Jason Hayward as a good luck charm. You're starting to see Altuve is hitting very, very well. Thank you very much. Pena's playing better. You got Kyle Tucker back, which is always good. Yordan Alvarez can hit homers at will. They've got a good lineup. And they're battle tested, of course. You notice there was one name I didn't say. Justin Verlander is really reminding me of Jack Morris right now for many reasons. Jack Morris and Justin Verlander both pitched the majority of their careers with the Detroit Tigers. Both of them have put together wonderful careers. Both of them have been postseason heroes. Both of them were acquired by another team late in their career where they won a World Series ring. Actually won a pair of World Series rings after they left Detroit. Now, big difference is Morris also won a World Series ring with Detroit, and Verlander won the Cy Young Award and MVP with Detroit. So that's the main things. But there's another big similarity. Late in Jack Morris's career, when he was pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays, he still had the great reputation of being a big game pitcher. Hell, he won the World Series MVP in 1991 with the Minnesota Twins with one of the great Game 7s of all time, where he threw 10 shutout innings in the single greatest World Series I ever saw in Game 7 of the World Series. The next year, he gave the Toronto Blue Jays that veteran ace that they desperately needed to anchor their staff, and they went on to win the first World Series in their franchise's history. Now, Morris was not as dominant as he was with Minnesota, but he did throw a couple of complete games and, led by example. In 1993, the Blue Jays were once again a tremendous ball club. There were very good teams in the AL East that year, but in the end, it was the Toronto Blue Jays coming out on top. Now, that year, manager Cito Gaston, and I am doing some of this from memory, so if I don't remember everything, forgive me. There was a big turnover of players from 92 to 93, but they still had a tremendous starting rotation. They had Juan Guzman. They had Todd Stottlemyre. They had acquired Dave Stewart. They had Pat Henkin. And they had Jack Morris. Now, here's the deal. Jack Morris that year, by the end of that season, was cooked. He was cooked. That's all there was to it. He was no longer an effective pitcher. He had a super high ERA, and I just rattled off they had a bunch of other much better options. They had lost several pitchers in the free agency the year before. David Wells, David Cohn, Jimmy Key had all left via free agency. But they brought in Dave Stewart to be a big game pitcher. And as I mentioned before, younger pitchers like Juan Guzman, Todd Stottlemyre, and Pat Henkin were ready to fill in the gaps. And they still had Morris. And it became clear that Morris was the odd man out. Now, as it turned out, he got an injury just before the playoffs. Ow, my arm. I think it's broken. I think the Astros have to do that with Justin Verlander. Because we saw today, he's 41 years old. He's a Hall of Famer. He brings all the leadership. But guess what? Jack Morris brought the leadership even when he was on the bench. He was jumping up and down and hugging Cito Gaston when Joe Carter hit that home run. But if he had started in the playoffs against Chicago, instead of Henkin or Guzman or Dave Stewart or Stottlemyre, by the way, Dave Stewart wound up being the ALCS MVP that year, and Guzman had several tremendous starts. If they had started Morris out of respect, they may have lost that series to Chicago. They may have lost the World Series to Philadelphia. Instead, Morris got another World Series ring. He just was sitting on the bench. Now there are 4 rounds to the postseason, and chances are the Astros are not going to miss that first one. There's no way Verlander should even be on the roster for the first one. In the best of 3 series, you're going to probably start Valdez, Brown, and Kikuchi or Blanco. I mean, Verlander's not even going to see a pitch. If you want to put him on the next round or something out of respect, I don't understand why. He doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't. And if the Astros right now, if they said to him, look it, Justin, we love you. You won that first World Series that no one seems to acknowledge. But the second one, you were huge in it. You were a multiple Cy Young Award winner in Houston. You're a postseason hero in Houston. We can't have you starting. We can't. Set them down. Sit Kate Upton down too. Say you've all made your millionaires and you have a chance to get a 3rd World Series ring. But the clearest way to a World Series ring is to have a starting five of Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco, Spencer Arrighetti, and Yusei Kikuchi. He got clobbered today. Pavin Smith hit 3 home runs. The first 2, I think, were off of Verlander. He did not look good. He got crushed. And he is by far the worst option out of them. Yes, I know Arrighetti is young. And he's had his ups and downs. He's your number 5 starter at this point. Valdez has to be your 1. He's a legit ace. Blanco seems to be on the verge of throwing a no-hitter every other game he pitches. Hunter Brown's been really underrated. And Yusei Kikuchi has taken to the Astros like, I don't know, Verlander did in 2017. Listen to what I'm saying. Someone's got to remind him, you're going to the Hall of Fame. You're going to be beloved by Astros fans for all time. And they're going to retire your number in Detroit. And someone will look at your plaque and will probably have a Tiger hat on, but look at your plaque and say, wow, what a great big game pitcher for several decades. And when the hell was he on the Mets? That's what they will say. But if you want to win World Series ring number 3, I'm sorry. No disrespect. No, tons of respect. But you got to take a seat. All right. We have an upcoming show tomorrow with good friend of the podcast, Michael X. Ferraro, author, singer, poet, TV producer, my friend, and rabid Phillies fan. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the Phillies and the NL East. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, talking about the fact that you can come here for baseball talk, even if everyone's talking football. And please, please, please finish those no-hitters. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.